Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, Africa.
Hello and welcome, beloveds, to another episode of Wake Up Africa. My name is Dr. Mumbi Saraki. How you doing? How's everything going? I really do pray that you are well in all your ways and that you're moving into living life truly on your own terms. It's so important. And it's so great to see, the great awakening and return of our people. And the great return is people returning to themselves, and it's happening across Africa, especially if you look at, all the narratives that are coming out of the V-shot, which show that Africa ain't biting to the point where many of the shots are actually expiring while we're at it. But I've shared a lot of that information on Patreon, so definitely consider joining for as little as $2 a month. I did a show the other day about the 7 pillars of the Babylon system. And a lot of you have been asking me, how do we bring these 7 pillars down? How do we bring down the Babylon system? What is the priority? Which of the 7 pillars is the priority? And, I actually want to dive deeper into each of the pillars, which I'll be doing in future episodes, because I know that there are people who are already working in media, in entertainment, in education, in social services to bring out, a paradigm shift. And hopefully, as I touch on each of those, there were 7 pillars that I mentioned. Someone actually commented on Neely Fuller. She had 9, pillars. She talked about, she added law and some others, etc., that she felt had kept the diaspora in bondage. But long story short, beloveds, it's all mental. It's all mental, and we have to recognize that. And the only way to bring the 7 pillars down is to stop supporting them, because we are the greatest supporters and perpetuators of the 7 pillars of the Babylon system. That's how it was designed. And in case you missed it, it was education, economics, media, entertainment, governmental, that's the number 1, and religion, and social services. I think those are the 7. And basically they use this as a foundation to create their fake matrix, their fake social order, their fake reality. And all of it mimics what they came and studied in our own lives, and what our people went over to Babylon when they were still living in the caves and actually taught them and civilized them. But it looks like, all that has kind of come back to bite us. But those are stories for other days. So I think the most important thing, the way we bring down the Babylon system, is we must walk away from it, beloveds, and create alternatives for ourselves. Because we've got it's not even a state capture. We've got a cultural capture. They've captured our culture. They've captured our social network, where so many people now, especially with the V-shot, they don't have any choice but to go to hospitals, because that's how they've been raised, and it's generations down. You can't even go to your grandmother and ask her, or your grandfather. Sadly, many grandfathers aren't even here, but you can't even go to your grandmother and ask her, okay, I'm suffering from this. What do I help? At least here in East Africa. I know West Africa is very, very different, but majority of our people have been captured mentally, and their soul has been captured by the Babylon system because of an over-reliance on it. So for me, I think the most important thing is to break the religious psychosis. That is the first thing, because your oppressor and your savior can't look the same, beloveds. It's like a mental illness to have that. And that's why we're in this split emotions. It's almost like we're schizophrenic, Black people are bred to be schizophrenic. I should do a show on that. Like, to have multiple personalities. Because you have your personality in the Muzungu world, then your personality in the hood, then you have And it's all of this thing of having like the same person that raped your ancestors looks like your savior. So that just has mashed us up. And I think that's the first one. And we have to put our rightful spiritual authorities in their position. And there, I keep telling you, beloveds, the ancient ones are back, the ancestors are back. The beloved cosmic ancestors, the ones who, the architects who created our reality to begin with, are here. Confirmation, I guess. And so we must become, spiritually purify ourselves enough. Because it's not about following anyone, beloveds. But it's about, instead of lending our energy to the Babylon system, we should be lending our energy to our oracles and our spiritual warriors so that they can do mighty things at such a time as this. And I think all the spiritual authorities that Babylon has put in place, the bishops and the pastors and the preachers, are a major gatekeeper to our liberation. Major gatekeeper. Because they know the truth. But they keep lying to the people because it's literally a business. And they use a lot of magic and wizardry in their churches. On top of that, but the thing is, they are the gatekeepers for a lot of people's spirit and minds. And just how that whole system works, it's so toxic. So for me, religion would be the first one. Now, the priority, however, is actually the government, because the government controls everything. They govern the mental, beloveds. So they are the ultimate one. But I feel like we need to leave that till we've got everything else in order. So if people are really serious about a liberation, first get out of the religious psychosis. Let's start supporting our spiritual priesthoods, which are going to start emerging, and also making sure that anyway, the ancestors will hold them to integrity. So he's not like a pastor he's not, Mzungu Jesus is supposed to be telling him when he's, to stop stealing from the people. Anyway, I'm digressing, but to uplift and really uphold, to recognize the male and female messiahs of our time and to support them. Because when you support someone, you lend them your energy and that propels them to do so much more. And your heart will tell you the people who have the right intentions and the greatest intentions for our people, beloveds. It won't be a mystery. And then we need to start creating our own systems. And I mean, people have been talking about this for so long. The economic, we need to buy Black, support Black, and, start creating, benefit as much as you can from the Babylon system, but recognize that it's falling. So any material wealth that you're getting right now, you shouldn't be holding on to or hoarding. You should be investing in creating a sustainable, kind of life and situation for yourself and your family. So it should be to build your off-grid home, to get you all the extra food you need, to get you your generators and stuff. That's where your money should be going, to help you, create your next. But at the same time, we should be getting into bartering and trading. So that if the Babylon system fell, you have carrots that I can trade my sweet potatoes with. I mean, I'm being really basic, but that's the levels we're going to have to reach. Or we create our own system. But the first thing you can do is make sure that 99% of your income is being channeled into Black businesses. Just consciously do it, beloveds. Consciously support one another, because we control so much. Money is energy, and we control a massive percentage of that energy, but we don't see it because it's always leaking out. And it goes back to religion, beloveds, and this thing of Black people being told that we're sinners and blah blah blah. Some people really carry that to heart, and it's affected them, where they look down on themselves and others. And they really see the Mzungu as the same. The religious psychosis is so deep. And I think once you sort out that religious psychosis and you realize what they've done, it helps everything else kind of start to come together. Let's take a short break. We'll be right back.
Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, Africa.
Welcome back, beloveds, to Ask Dr. Mumbi on Dr. Mumbi's spiritual show. My name is Dr. Mumbi Saraki. How you doing? How's everything going, beloveds? So I did a show. I definitely hope you can check it out about, the 7 Babylon pillars that they have kind of used to overlay their fake reality, their prison planet on Eden. And a lot of you are asking, how do we get out of this? How do we get away from this? How do we bring down Babylon? Well, Babylon has already fallen spiritually, beloveds. But because so many of us are so intricately entwined in the Babylon system, in their economics, in their health structure, in their social structure, their governments. We even participate in their governments, which gives them more momentum by, voting, etc., etc. So there's so many things that we're just so intertwined. We send our children to their systems of schools. We don't, few in Africa even thought about it, really, have even gone to the extent of challenging their governments on the kind of education that our children are getting, was created by Babylon. The religious psychosis is also very real. And so all of these, because people are they wouldn't know what else to do. So I think for us who are awakened, it's to start creating alternatives. And I think for you, if you really want to help Babylon fall, then first start by removing your mental energy. And, enough of us will be pulling out where you'll start to see the effects. And one of the amazing things that I've seen is that in 2020, with everything that happened, so many of our melanated brothers and sisters, especially in Babylon, pulled their children from school, which was absolutely, and started doing homeschooling, started coming together and teaching their children, giving them an alternative education. Because, beloveds, bottom line, it's all about the children. And I'll actually be doing a special series of shows on children and education, because I actually want to cover each of the pillars, because I know there's people who are working in each of the pillars, but I'll be doing something special on children, as per request, by popular demand. Pulling your children out of the schools. And it's getting tricky, beloveds, because now they want your children to also take the V-shot. Especially if you have them in these posh international schools. They may be faster than, But it's getting very tricky, beloveds. And it's good to have your children close to home right now, because things can pop off at any time. And you should even be living, in the boondocks, beloveds, preparing for what is coming. Don't be caught out in the cities. Like, if you have the opportunity to move, really, please move. So apart from that, also with our health, because, the social services that they've created, they basically took our own ways of healing ourselves and they created this entire system. Like, beloveds, you need to stop, using Babylon hospitals. Like, most of the Babylon medicine was created for white mice. It's never taken us. It's not for our body type, beloveds. It's really not for the melanated ones. And if you really want to be free, you have to release the Babylon health system, which means eating higher vibing foods, making sure your food is your medicine, literally, making sure you're getting your herbs, making sure you're getting your tonics and your roots, and you're just continuously keeping the vessel on its highest level. And it also making sure that what you're thinking and what you're seeing, because the mind also affects the body. So we also have to be very careful what kind of information we're allowing to penetrate our bodies. And other social services, like the way they've created this entire social world, beloveds. Like, at this point, if you're a high vibing being, restaurants should be a thing of the past, beloveds. Like, you shouldn't be eating out for none, because you don't know Even if you're eating at the vegetarian restaurant or whatever, you don't know the kind of spirit and energy that people are cooking their food with. Because food is almost as high a meditation as sex, beloveds. It's a deep thing when you're feeding your body. And, and even when you're making food for your body, you always have to do it because everything, even your thoughts, go into that food. So you don't know the kind of low vibing thoughts that people are putting in that food. And especially with the V shot right now and the way people are just, are becoming, master spreaders or whatever. You really can't risk going to restaurants anymore. So these are the kind of things you should already have been given up. Going to the cinema should be like something that is not in your system anymore. You enjoyed Babylon while Babylon was here. So it should be absolutely easy for you to let go of Babylon now that it's time for Babylon to fall. Because Babylon is surviving mentally only. And we see it physically. And that's why you'll be seeing many glitches in the matrix, beloveds. Because spiritually, it's done. Spiritually, it's done, but it's just like the majority of humanity doesn't believe it. And because of this group mind, then the majority of humanity don't see it, and so they keep the illusion of Babylon going. So these are the things we have to consciously do. And once we create alternative education system, alternative social services for ourselves, they'll be thriving because money is energy, beloveds. And when we put energy towards one another, it like exponentially just pops off. And so once we start putting energy into one another's projects and, the people who have the economics, the people who are doing the education, because there's people who have been prepared for this. Every pillar, the media is another one. Media just tries to continuously project the propaganda to keep it, because they have to constantly keep you in fear and, fight mode, so that you don't really see what's going on. If you had 2 seconds away from the media, you'd start thinking different. If you took 5 minutes, just a day off, freaking CNN and the CNNs and the BBCs and the French 24s and the Al Jazeeras of this world and just did life. Because before, we never had any idea what was going on across the world. Maybe we did on another level. First of all, it wasn't this chaotic. It was a totally different reality. So let me not give that example, but they have worked so hard for us to care about what's happening in the middle of Australia when I'm in Kenya, and there's issues here that I haven't dealt with. That's also something that weakens us, beloveds. Start where you are with what you have. And disconnect. The way to bring Babylon down is to walk away. Because you see, we need to get all these pillars in place so that we can target the ultimate pillar, which is the government. Governing the mental. That is what creates the atmosphere for everything else. Absolutely everything else. The government will dictate the laws of the land, the laws of the rules of the playing field. And they can halt any one of them at any time, like we've seen with the lockdowns, where they can shut down every other pillar. So ultimately, the governmental one is the one that really we need to grasp. But if we start where we are with what we have, the first step you can take is just, getting out of the religious psychosis. And then whatever field you've been in, because I was saying everyone has been prepared. There's people who have worked in the education system, creating homeschooling systems for over a decade. There's others who have created alternative media and dedicated that for 15 years. These are the people we need to be lending our energy to. Because Babylon has fallen, beloveds. And if you can't see it, it's because you're not seeing or you're not looking properly. Until next time, Tuko pamoja.